right. We seem to be all systems go everywhere. Put that on pause. Back to, I can now see your comments. Hi, Ashley on Instagram. Thank you for joining us. We're back. We're back, everybody. This is exciting. Welcome, January 20th, 2025, episode 321. Mornings with Scott. Welcome, the best damn business show for medium and sized businesses on the planet. Happy Anthony Fauci Day. Sound as good on Instagram. Thank you for that, Ashley. Happy Anthony Fauci Day. Is that what today is? I think that's markets are closed because of Fauci, right? He got a pardon last night. He is a free man, along with General Milley and Liz Cheney and all these evil cast of characters. Is there anybody who gives you the creeps more than Anthony Fauci? I know that's not a crime, giving me the creeps, but maybe it ought to be. Maybe it ought to be Liz Cheney, the most evil of all the Cheneys. As a reminder, her father shot his buddy in the face with a shotgun. But I don't think he set the bar high, but his daughter certainly exceeded that. It's Inauguration Day today, noon Eastern. Donald Trump, the golden age, becomes the 47th president of the United States. J.D. Vance becomes the 50th Vice President of the United States. I thought that was an interesting stat, that there's only been, what does that mean? There's been 3 presidents in history that have, sorry, I need to fix my cord here. This is driving me nuts. 3 presidents in, there we go. 3 presidents in history that have switched vice presidents halfway through. I wonder who those are. Trump becomes only the 2nd president in U.S. history to return to office after losing a previous election. Wouldn't it be interesting? He just seems so much better, more prepared this time. Wouldn't it be interesting if you were allowed to run for president or any office as many times as you wanted? So you weren't limited to 2 terms, but you couldn't do any terms successively, back to back. You had to take a break, as he has just done. I feel like we would have way better governance if that were the case. And also, we'd have some pretty cool elections. I mean, if you think about it, I think we could have had, all at once, we could have had Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Obama, Bush, Trump, all running against each other. If that were the case, that might have been kind of interesting when you compare it to the cast of losers that have come along lately. Well, it should be a big day. Today. There's going to be a record number settings of executive orders coming down. Buckle up, everybody. Buckle up. We're about to go for a ride. And in preparation for Inauguration Day, the Trump MemeCoin was released. I think that was Friday night. I was away at a ski race for my daughter for the weekend, but Wall Street Journal says that President-elect Donald Trump promised a crypto-friendly administration in days before taking office. He and his family are selling new cryptocurrencies. I always laugh during the election. You'd be listening to Fox News, and it would go to a commercial. The commercial was for a Donald Trump shoe, a sneaker. And I was like, is this a new way to finance elections, campaigns? What is this all about? Well, now he's launched a MemeCoin. Just days before the inauguration, Trump unveiled the Trump, TRUMP, $TRUMP, MemeCoin, a cryptocurrency based on the Solana blockchain. Was announced via social media platforms, specifically Truth Social, his own social media platform, of course. And it sparked immediate buzz and controversy. The coin features an image inspired by Trump surviving a July assassination attempt with his face death and came up fighting, I think is the catchphrase here. It's marketed as a cultural product rather than an investment. As a reminder, that means it's going to zero. There will be no value to this coin in the long run. I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm not saying next month. I'm not even saying during his term, but there is no value to this. More on that as we move forward. So the meme coin saw meteoric. What is this word I can't say on a Monday morning? Maybe I should drink some coffee. Good morning, everybody. A rise in value, initially priced at $7 and then peaked at $70 before stabilizing around $49. Had a market cap of $20 billion at its height. It is 80% controlled by Trump. So the liquidity piece of this is 20%. That's the piece that goes out to the market. And I think they're going to stage more liquidity into the market as it goes forward. And the trading has been frenzied, as they say, but it's tightly controlled in its liquidity by Trump. And so basically he issued this coin, and if he controls 80% and it hit 20 billion, that would be $16 billion of value on paper that he received by issuing this coin. Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports fame bought $500,000 of the coin immediately and then sold it out and made $1.5 million profit, which he says he's going to bet on the Buffalo Bills for the Super Bowl. So there you go. I don't know. The launch boosted Solana's price to an all-time high and revitalized meme trading activity. Anyway, so right after he announces his, then Melania comes out and announces hers. So she also has a coin. And let's see, as I was logging in this morning, the Trump coin's about 58.56, which is still above that, say, $10-15 billion market cap valuation. I didn't go back and do the math. And the Melania's priced around $12.03 at $2 billion of market value, all just trading on their popularity. Now, I want to remind you, this is not a financial show. I'm not telling you what to make investments in. The release of this coin itself says it's not an investment, that it is a cultural product. But people will treat it as an investment. People will treat it as a trade. And I remind you that all coins, digital currencies, including Bitcoin, have no utility yet. I'm not saying the rules won't change. I'm not saying they will never have utility. But right now, the value, quote unquote, air quote, value of these things is 100% supply and demand. I'm not your financial advisor. Go get your own financial advice on this. But it's 100% supply and demand. And if you're not tied into the crypto world, if you're an economist, a real banker, people who understand how finance work, these coins will be going to zero eventually. Again, that could be a long time from now. You could make a fortune in between now and the time that it goes to zero, or it could be this afternoon. Who the hell knows? There's zero chance governments are going to let these types of the Trump coin will be fine, but the Bitcoins in the long term, there's zero chance governments are going to let this continue. And again, there's no utility. If you can't pay your taxes in economic theory, if you can't pay your taxes, then there's no point to these coins. So 100% supply and demand. And who has the supply? Well, the supply is 80% controlled by Trump affiliates. And so they will be able to manipulate value by not selling, by hanging on and just letting this small float, as it were, in the securities world trade. Is this a platform for what? Is it a platform for corruption? I don't know. Let's talk about liquidity risk first and how that works. If you own just pretend this is a public company stock, because it's the same thing. And you issue 1 million shares, but you own 800,000 of those shares, and they're free traded, or you have some locked up and some free traded, and the market has 20% of those shares. Well, the 20% is allowed to trade, and the 80% just kind of sits there. And when the stock gets high, the price of this stock goes up, you as the promoter, as the control block holder, the owner of that 80%, you can dribble a little bit into the market, create some more supply, and get a bunch of cash for that. And then when the stock drops, what can you do? Well, you can take some of that cash, not all of it, but you can take some of it and you can create demand by buying at a low price, right? And that creates, so effectively you're creating a floor for the stock and you're creating a ceiling for the stock by making a market, selling when the stock gets high, taking that same cash and buying when the stock gets low. And that's how you make a market and promote a stock in simple terms. Well, it will be no different for a cryptocurrency, for a meme coin that frankly has no utility whatsoever. So you always in anything that you're looking to buy or invest in or try to make some money, you need to look at the liquidity. Who owns what? Who's promoting what? What is the market maker on the deal? Excuse me, I'm still fighting a cold here. This is why we missed all last week. I had no voice. I'm back, but it's not 100%. Years ago, maybe back in the 90s, I was dealing with a stockbroker, or having drinks with anyways, and worked with for about a year on a deal, a stockbroker in Toronto who got in trouble with the regulator. So he on Bay Street, well, in Canada, was, I think at the time, the number 3 stockbroker in the entire country. He was doing a ton of deals, a ton of work, making lots of money. And he had a client come in. I'm going to make up some numbers because I don't remember the exact numbers from back in the day, but he had a widow come in, and she had, say, $150,000. So he opens an account, he takes in her cash, and lo and behold, like 9 months later, she's worth $3 million. So she goes from 150,000 to $3 million. And now she feels like she's rich. But the stocks that are that this broker put her in are completely illiquid. They're all promotes. There's no, if you ever tried to sell this $3 million, you would kill the market. And that's the risk of liquidity when you're investing into something that is obviously a promote and doesn't have a true liquid market going around with it. So he gets her into these deals that they're promoting at that particular brokerage shop. I will not promote names. And the value goes way up from 150 to $3 million. And she says, "Hey, Mr. Stockbroker, now that I'm so rich, I need financial planning." So he ships her off to this guy he knows who's a financial planner. And the financial planner looks at the portfolio and says, oh my goodness, her entire net worth of $3 million is tied into these crappy stocks that never trade. What kind of financial planner, what kind of know your client portfolio financial advisor are you, Mr. Stockbroker, and reports him to the regulators for not looking after this woman. Remember, so she's gone from 150 to 3 million in like 9 months because it's all promoted illiquid stocks. It's not real, it's a fugazi, and if she tried to sell, that would be a problem. And so he gets taken to the regulator, and the regulator, the Ontario Securities Commission, the OSC, says to him, "Hey, you don't know your client, you're not being prudent," and whatever the right word is for his particular designation, whatever that was back in the 1990s. And he looks at the regulator and he says, "Of course it's illiquid. How do you think she got from 150 to $3 million in value?" Apparently that was the wrong answer for the regulator, because he ran into, that was pretty much the end of his career, maybe properly so. So these meme coins are going to be the same thing. This is how a stock promotion works. You need to control a lot of the supply so that you can make a market. Again, you want to sell when it's high, puts an artificial floor on the stock, but it brings you some cash in. And then when the stock drops, you can buy some of it when it's cheap and create a floor so that everybody thinks this is a legit thing. And this happens regularly. Regulators properly try to put a stop to that. But here you are in the crypto world. You've got a meme coin where 80% is controlled by the Trump associated entities. So is this a new way of election financing? Is that what this is? Is this like just getting rich off the popularity and brand, where other foreign governments are buying this thing instead of instead of having, like Biden did, other foreign governments writing big checks and running it through shell companies, and Hunter selling fake bubble art at $500,000 a pop. Like, is this just another way to do the same thing? You know, I laughed. I laughed when Trump, back during his first term, or I forget if it was right after the first term or during the first term, but he was kicked off Twitter back then, Facebook, other social media platforms, and he was kicked off, and he's the only guy I know that was completely banned from the internet, and has the idea to create his own platform in Truth Social, and made billions and billions of dollars from being censored. Truth Social has an $8 billion market cap right now. I don't know what he controls of that, but I'm sure it's a significant amount, and he's made billions from the act of being censored. I don't know. This just seems like a corruption platform to me. We'll see how that works out. Also, along the Trump lines, social media, corruption. TikTok was banned briefly yesterday, so I'm at a ski race with my 11-year-old daughter. She was racing. She had 3 days of racing over the weekend, and the topic in the condo as we were getting ready early in the morning yesterday was that the TikTok, even in Canada, when you hit on the app on your phone, a pop-up screen would come up and said, "Hey man, we've been banned and you can't use this," and that's all that it did. But we're working with Trump, and we'll see what happens. And then about 14 hours later, it was unbanned by Trump again with a Truth Social post. So apparently my daughter does not have a phone. She's 11, but her classmates who are 11 and 12 do have phones, and they apparently were all freaking out over the TikTok ban. As a reminder, the Biden administration banned this app largely because of data security concerns. It's a spy tool. It's a spy tool. It is owned by China. The algorithm is in China. And no matter what they say, it's a way to collect data and spy on you. And by the way, Facebook, X, everybody with a social platform, it's a way to collect data. That's what they're doing. You are the product. So this is not unusual, I don't think, but it's particularly good at it, and it's owned by a foreign government, which has proven itself to be at times hostile, or at least unreasonably competitive with U.S. interests. So it's got a data security risk. I do want to just tell you a little side story. I was once running a company. It was a turnaround in the food industry, and we were concerned just based on the math. I was concerned based on the math that there was a bunch of food product going out the back door from organized crime within the ethnic groups that we were hiring. And that turned out to be true, by the way. But the first step in this was we hired a security firm, and the security firm put up a bunch of cameras and online systems in the back so we could see what was going on and monitor thefts, because they were, they're big totes of whatever that people would have been stealing to get to the dollar value that I feel was missing. And so you come up with these security systems, and you install the cameras. Well, where do you get the cameras? Well, of course, you go and buy them from whatever retailer or wholesaler. And where are they made? Of course, they're in China. So I had this super duper tech hacker guy that was working for me at the time, and he was monitoring the rollout of this, and he caught, I don't know who would caught it, but the minute we turned these cameras online, they started sending data packs back to China, back to the homeland. And he caught this, and he was able to hack in and put up a firewall to stop that. I mean, I don't know that it was a big deal that they knew where the totes of tomatoes or whatever were sitting, but I mean, just everything that comes out of China is, we need to assume, spyware, and TikTok most certainly is. And so it was banned for being spyware, and it's banned for being unpatriotic or non-patriotic in its persuasion abilities. The whole point of all social media is to give the user a dopamine hit, so you become addicted to these things, like my 11-year-old daughter's friends. And it does it by giving you a dopamine hit. And because it is brainwashing you and it's super persuasive, it is able to promote interests that are counter to the government of the US. And for that reason, TikTok has already been banned for quite some time in India for the exact same reasons. So, Wall Street Journal reports that the popular social media app started restoring service on Sunday for its 170 million U.S. users in just over 14 hours. The restriction of service came after Trump, who has been indicating for weeks, said that he wanted to help the app, and he said Sunday he would issue an executive order on Monday to reinstate the app. There was a provision, I understand, in the law passed by Biden, passed by Congress, that the president could give 90-day extension to this ban if there was a deal to work out with a purchaser. And there's a couple of purchasers floating around, but I did note that Elon Musk posted on X, I think it was yesterday, I saw it in my travels, that he's against the ban of TikTok. He believes in free speech. He's against the ban of TikTok, but X is banned in China, and there has to be some reciprocity here. I think Trump is an expert at creating negotiating chips. This is a negotiating chip. Have it. I'm willing to talk. I'm willing to negotiate. I'm willing to find a solution. Unban it for this 90-day period, and let's see where we get to on that. Shao Chu, the president of CEO of TikTok, is going to the inauguration today. He was going before this thing was unbanned. There's something in the works here, and clearly TikTok is part of an overall Chinese negotiation being orchestrated by Trump. And I'm not saying it's true, but what if the Chinese government is buying some Trump coins? Could that be true? This is just a platform for corruption. That's what these meme coins are. I'm a little blown away by this whole thing. So keep an eye. You want to know what's going to happen with TikTok? Keep an eye on the algorithm, right? Because you've got what's the value of these platforms? You've got the user base, you've got the brand name, you have the functionality, and that would be a set of assets that someone could buy. And that's what Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank fame and Canadian and US investor, that's what he's looking at, but not the algorithm. And the algorithm is the engine behind it. And what appears to be happening here is the Chinese will not give up the algorithm for any price ever to anyone ever outside of China. Why? Because it's a spy tool. We all know that. And so we'll see how this goes. I think it's just another chip in a negotiation. I don't see any way that the U.S. government allows this to continue being a spy tool and to manipulate and brainwash the U.S. youth, the Canadian youth, into whatever the Chinese government wants to brainwash them towards. I just don't see that being a reasonable solution for this. I remind you that the TikTok algorithm has an entirely different user feed in China. The Chinese youth don't get see the same shit that the American youth get to see. It's a whole different For You feed, which just tells you everything you need to know, right? Well, Trump was reelected this time, primarily why? Why? Because all government leadership has fallen apart and has proven itself to be incompetent. I mean, left leadership, Democrat leadership, liberal leadership in Canada has become entirely incompetent. Or at least maybe they always were incompetent. They probably were, and the veil has been lifted on that. What demonstrates that more than these LA wildfires that started 13 days ago? I wasn't on the air last week because I had no voice, and I wasn't on the air the week before that. Is this my first show in 2025? Maybe it is. I need to go back and look at that. Here's the thing you need to know about wildfires. They can be stopped. This is optional. This is to allow wildfires to do what they're doing there. That happen every single summer in my hometown right now in British Columbia, my home province right now of British Columbia. This is all optional. All you have to do is invest in forest management, invest in equipment, in on-the-ground equipment, aerial equipment, cutting in breaks, fire breaks, clearing brush. Now, if you have 100-mile-an-hour hurricane winds, it's not going to be foolproof, but for the most part, you can deal with these forest fires. You don't have to have the disastrous consequences, homes burning down, people displaced, devastation, lack of insurance. The insurance is a big issue. Nobody wants to insure these things. The cost is too much. And that's just going to get worse and worse and worse unless our governments get their acts together. And so the trick about these wildfires is they can be stopped. Well, Wall Street Journal, I won't go through it in great detail just in the interest of time, but they have an article that I picked up yesterday talking about the bureaucracy and the lack of leadership when it comes to brush management. Brush, it's hard to take a lighter and to burn down a live tree, right? You can hold it on a leaf, you can hold it again. It's not going to burn. You're not going to catch that on fire without intense heat and flames coming at it. And the reason is because it's alive, it's full of water. And but the brush on the ground, the dead forest, brush and branches and leaves and pine needles, this is all fuel. This is all fuel for a forest fire. And throughout history, before humanity, forests have been burning down from lightning strikes because of this. And it is a system of regenerating a forest because it gets too clogged up with this dead stuff on the ground, and then the real trees can't grow, and animals have to move, and then they have to come back, and it's all part of a cycle. Well, humanity, as it gets closer to these forests and to nature, right, as we expand and we expand and we expand, we need to manage this on our own to get rid of this fuel because it is guaranteed to happen. It might be about arson, but it's not always about arson. It is guaranteed that if you don't clear the brush and put in fire breaks, this will happen. 100% guaranteed. It is not guaranteed that if you clear the fuel and have fire breaks that it won't happen, but you can control it. You could definitely control it. You could probably almost always eliminate it with the right equipment, the right planning, and the right pre-work. And so the article from the Wall Street Journal about LA talks about the politics of private land, of state land, of federal land, and how none of this works together to clear the brush. As a private citizen, apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal article, you are forced to clear brush within a certain number of yards, which I won't find quickly here, of your property. But then the governments don't do that themselves because they're incompetent. There's all sorts of environmental reasons, they think, with animal habitats, and they don't want to disturb this and they don't want to disturb that. But again, this is just part of the cycle of nature, and you have to do this. And if you plan, and if you invest, and if you don't have other priorities, if you're not incompetent as a government, you can avoid and limit these sorts of disasters, which we call natural disasters. On the left, natural disaster caused by climate change. It's not caused by climate change. This is a natural cycle of every forest, and if we don't manage it, this will continue on forever, no matter the carbon level in the atmosphere. That's not an argument against climate change, by the way. I'm not trying to comment on that one way or the other, but you can't mask your, well, you can, apparently it seems to work for them, but masking your incompetence with and your lack of priorities with this type of talk of something that's not specific, not actionable, like climate change, really is just the height of poor leadership. And that's exactly why Trump was reelected, to fight back against that. From Forbes magazine, I think it was, I picked up this article last week, but relevant to my audience and the work that we do. The DEA judge has canceled the hearing to consider the Biden administration's proposal to reclassify marijuana under federal drug laws amid allegations that officials at the agency have conferred with witnesses opposed to the plan. Judge John Mulrooney canceled the hearing. It was set for tomorrow, extending the process to ease restrictions on cannabis, and he deferred that for at least 3 months. So the idea was they're going to change it from Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 substance, which I'm not 100% sure what the benefit of that is, but it will make it easier federally for the marijuana cannabis companies to get federal tax deductions, to get banking. The problem with the banking is if you're going to open up a bank account for a local cannabis marijuana company, you need to do so with a bank that's limited to a state, because no federal bank is going to do that for you, because it's federally illegal to be in that business, even though the state's not enforcing that. And so it's complicated. It's hard to get a bank account. We had one in Colorado for sure for our hemp processing facility, and I know that you can find solutions in California, but it had created an entire black market of ways to launder and shadow bank. I always had remember a meeting I had with one fellow who was collecting wine to funnel his profits from his legal cannabis business in California. So the DEA hearing was scheduled to evaluate a proposal from the Department of Health to change the classification. We already said that. The judge ruled that the motion for the from cannabis policy reform advocates who were scheduled to testify as witnesses. So they made a motion to say, hey, the DA is being corrupt here, and the judge ruled in their favor. The judge said, hey, the people at the DEA were conferring and planning up front with opposition witnesses, because even though this was a initiative put forward by the Biden administration, these deep state, as we might call them, DEA people were improperly fighting against it. So the judge threw up his hand. He says the strangeness of this unsupported approach is amplified by the fact that the appointment of a new DEA administrator by a different political party is imminent. So I don't know if the DEA is incompetent or corrupt or both, but it does seem that they were just torpedoing this deal, this rescheduling of marijuana purposely, and that's basically what the judge has ruled. Now, when Trump gets in, what's going to happen? I understand that he is cautiously in favor of this rescheduling, maybe not full legalization. My guess is what he's going to do is remove the federal government from the issue entirely and make this a state issue, as he did with abortion, because I think at a personal level, he said many times that he's against drugs, he's against alcohol, but he also, on a populist basis, just like TikTok, is probably not the one that's going to walk away from this. And I don't know what Kennedy's view on this is as the health guy. I could see him going either way. So we shall see. It's an interesting business. It ought to be legalized in my personal view, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Governments are corrupt. Everything on the left seems to be incompetent, and that's why Trump was elected. This is the golden age. We shall see. Maybe Doge is going to happen, is going to be effective at creating a better world for us and a more effective government, or these Trump meme coins are just speaking to bigger and better corruption, and the whole thing's just BS. Let's find out. Competence starts with leadership. It starts with setting priorities, not having conflicting priorities, and focusing on those and executing. I've gone over time. This is might be my first show of 2025. I'm not sure. So I'll cut this off. We will see you tomorrow. We are doing Mornings with Scott, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Thank you all for listening. Do I have any comments that I need to get to? Nah, I think we're good. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow.